Well, hello and welcome to episode number 358 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's News Pack show, we look at very fancy food, a cat attacks a pilot, and a Welsh couple pull an Airbus A320. In the military news this week, planes and boats meet as the US Marines end their many years of Hornets at sea, while the American F-35s work abroad at an Italian Navy ship. A contract fighter plane for the US military experiences a mishap at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida, and Boeing's new T-7 Redhawk goes into production with a salute to the Tuskegee Airmen. So joining me this week over in the P2UK Master Suite Studios, prepared as always, it's Matt Smith.
Well, hello, good evening, good day, good night, and all the above. How are we all? All good?
Very well. Well, how are you today? I mean, how's your week been, Matt?
I mean, it's
in
been,
the world of wine.
In the world of wine. Well, I mean, it was adequate. That's probably all I can say on the matter. Really, it was adequate.
So it was like a bottle of Lambrini then. Not quite a Merlot.
How very dare you? That's such a swear word, I tell you. Lambrini, you may as well drink, I don't know, Castrol GTX.
White Lightning.
Yeah,
White Lightning.
Absolutely.
So joining us this week, as always, in his glorious Buckinghamshire studios, surrounded by the best cable management, it's Neville Bounds.
Yes, here we are again. Well, it's been a good week, actually. Really good. Very busy at work. And we've got some news from our company about when we can start travelling again later in the year, which we always like to hear about. So that's been great. And, looking forward to a great show tonight.
Excellent. Good to see you, as always, Nev. And over in his palatial mansion in Charlotte, it is, of course, the legend that is our military aviation expert. It's Armando.
Hey guys, it is a great week here. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Charlotte. And I actually have some pretty impressive shoes to fill, because right here in the Charlotte studio, I was sat across from Dr. Steph and my beautiful wife, Megan, who were practicing for, I don't know, this upcoming thing next week. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Have we got something coming up? I'm more nervous about the fact that that Nev and Carlos, just before we hit the live button, so we can't talk about it now, saying that they've got a big announcement to share with us, which I'm a little bit terrified about.
Great. It'll be news to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all right. It's all right. You and John can be, and Armando can be the uncle. It's fine.
Wow. Okay. I mean, there's so many things that need to be discussed all of a sudden.
I know. It's just to keep all our listeners there, you see. Yeah. Anyway, we have got two incredible guests joining us this week, and they are the most awesome hosts of a podcast I think everyone listens to. It's certainly on my playlist. It's the A320 Podcast. So we welcome onto the show back again. It is Matt and Andy from the A320 Podcast.
Evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us, as always.
Although you can't say that now, because obviously that's not the only podcast they're involved in.
No,
it's probably worth mentioning.
So, Andy, how are things with you? We'll kick off with you first, Andy, being as you're kind of ready to
He's the one you can see first. Is that literally right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Very good here. Thank you very much. Yeah, lovely up in the northeast. I mean, it was snowing this morning.
What?
Which was, it was snowing this morning.
I went out in shorts this morning.
But everything's very good. And I have to say, by the way, Matt is excellent at customer services in his wine job. He helped me out a lot at the beginning of the week, so thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I didn't, then I wouldn't have my job, would I? Let's be honest. It's like, how does this CC manager work again? Yes. Anyway, thank you. That's very kind, Andy.
No, all good, and thanks for having us on the show again. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, as always, Andy. Good to see you. And Matt, how are things with you in your studio there?
Yes, very good, thank you. Yes, all good this end. I flew a real aeroplane yesterday.
What? Whoa, hang on.
I know, yeah.
My goodness me. Gasp of breath.
Really? You flew a Boeing?
Oh, very good.
Ah!
Come on, Matt. It's time to leave, mate.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no, actually, I've got a much better
Cheers,
idea.
Dan.
What we'll do is we'll boot Carlos off the call for that. Honestly, how rude.
To be fair, Mr. Smith, I should
Yes.
call you Mr. Smith, because
Oh.
we've got two Matts on the show this week.
Okay.
Don't forget, these guys.
My
you
full
know,
title.
These guys have got the 737 podcast now. You see, so it's
Yeah.
another one to add to the list of podcasts to listen to each week. 'Cause it's very good.
Right.
So,
Okay. Fair enough. Yes. Nicely recovered. Well done.
I know. That's what I'm here for. Anyway. So we have a weekly roundup, and this one is brought to us from Armando, and this is an Oshkosh update. So if you're ready, Matt.
Hey everybody, here's a quick Oshkosh update. An innovative air show format to promote social distancing will be part of EAA's AirVenture Oshkosh 2021. The afternoon air show will at times feature a split performance area that accommodates two acts flying at the same time. The split performance areas along Oshkosh's 11,000-foot flight line will be used for aerobatic displays with aircraft that have a smaller performance footprint. This will allow two acts to safely fly their rehearsed routines at the same time, one at the north end of the aerobatic box while the other one flies simultaneously at the south end. The AirVenture sound system already has the capability to do split narration, so each act will have its own announcer and music. So imagine, for instance, Vicky Benzing flying her Stearman in the north box with her own announcer, while Patty Wagstaff flies her extra in the south box, also with her own music and announcer. That's according to EAA. They go on to say that we'll manage the schedule so that later in the week those acts will change locations. Like that, if you're camping down in the Vintage area, which is all the way at the south end, or volunteering up in Warbirds, which is at the north end, you'll still see all the performers throughout the week. Now, for aircraft that require a larger demonstration area, such as the F-16 Viper demo team and the World War II Warbirds that fly through the entire airshow box, in those cases, the full flight line will be used for their performances as in the past. They go on to say, one example might be, instead of having an Air Force Special Operations Command CV-22 Osprey insert special operators at Airshow Center only, they're going to request that more than one Osprey, and they insert locations along the crowd line. These are really common sense measures that do not impact safety while spreading the entertainment value along a much larger area. Now, they say that some of these innovations could become part of AirVenture permanently past 2021. Anyway, speaking of, the aircraft and operators of Special Operations Command, or Air Force Special Operations Command, will be among the highlighted programs at Oshkosh 2021. AFSOC is comprised of highly trained, rapidly deployable airmen who conduct special operations missions worldwide. These airmen who undertake a special operations career specialize in unique skills such as parachuting, scuba diving, rappelling, motorcycling, survival skill, and many, many, many more. Aircraft in the command include specialized mobility aircraft such as the MC-130, the CV-22, the C-146, you're going to have to look that one up, close air support aircraft like the AC-130 gunship, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft such as the MQ-9 and the U-28, which is a PC-12. According to EAA, even those who have a solid familiarity with the U.S. Air Force often know little about its special operations units and the important missions that they fulfill. So they want to bring some of that visibility to Oshkosh in 2021. Now, that's according to Rick Larson, who's EAA's Vice President of Communities and Member Programming, who coordinates AirVenture features and attractions. He goes on to say that the Air Force has been extremely cooperative through the years at showcasing its remarkable people and aircraft at AirVenture. They look forward to discovering that even more in 2021. Continuing on with Oshkosh, some of the world's top airshow performers have already made commitments to fly in 2021. As part of the afternoon and night airshow lineups, with more expected to commit in the coming months. Those performers include aerobatic champions and longtime Oshkosh favorites. The event features 9 airshows over 7 days, including the night airshows on July 28th and July 31st. Now, we attended those last year, and they were awesome. Among the returning performers and aircraft already on the schedule, they include the Aeroshell Aerobatic Team in their T-6s, Vicky Benzing in the Stearman,
Rob Holland, Jeff Borbin in his twin Yak 110 jet-assisted aircraft. Let's see, Wild Blue Rodeo, the RV-8s, Kirby Chambliss, Aaron Fitzgerald, and the Red Bull Air Force. Patty Wagstaff, which we mentioned at the top, in her extra, the Geico Sky Typers, and Matt Yonkin in his Twin Beach 18, which is one of my favorite aircraft. That's among many, many others. So, everybody, Oshkosh is happening. We're going to see you there.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's really exciting. So it's definitely happening then, Armando. This is great news.
Oshkosh is happening. It's going to be socially distanced. They're taking some precautions, but Oshkosh is happening. And as far as we know, Reno is happening. Sun and Fun, I think, is going to happen. So I think we may go pseudo back to normal this year, as far as air shows.
Fantastic. Now, I have to say there's been a lot of comments in the chat room about your amazing green screen that you were using there as your backdrop. Apparently, the lighting was fabulous, I think Lane pointed out. Although there were complaints about you needing to step up your muff game.
You know what? I always have room for improvement for this show. I will do anything. So if you guys are willing to pay for a new muff, then I'd be more than happy to. Right. Oblige.
Okay. I mean, you can't have one like what Nev bought himself, because I saw how much that was. But wow.
Well, we can all aspire to be Nev.
Well, but true indeed. But no, I would say genuinely really exciting, isn't it? That to think that there is the possibility of some possible kind of normality sort of later on this year. I'm sort of, it's going to be, those first air shows are just going to be like so cool.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I was actually talking to one of the guys from opposing bases, and they're going up to Oshkosh, hopefully, and Dr. Steph, who's sitting in my kitchen right now. We're all planning on going up there, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Captain Cruz is asking the question in the chat room, by the way, what airport is that behind you? The short answer is I don't know, but Alex, who is in the chat room, who sent me the picture, will be able to answer that very shortly, I'm sure. So.
It's Gloucester.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
Yes, Gloucester.
Okay,
Gloucester
very
Airport,
good. Yeah, thank you, Alex.
So it's that time of the month where we say a huge thank you to everyone across the globe who donates to the show to help everything happen that you see and hear every week. So Nev, over to you.
Yes, it is, and we couldn't do this without the help of the following people. Thanks very much indeed to Nicholas Codling, Warren Dixon, Luis Cachares, Alan Loveday, Andrew van der Sarg, Alan White, Stephen Howland, Tanya Wyman, Megan Carrion, Stuart Backer, Jonathan Warner, Eric Graves, Matt Caton, Jordan Rose, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Adam Spink, Liz Piper, Jeff Ward, Ray Williams, Jacob Darlington Brown, Nicholas Hewitt, Masha, Owen, Ruben Wells, Graham Haley, Myla, Evan Shue, Philip Labe and Stephanie Plummer. Were Lee Davis, Richard Adams, Jennifer Parkinson, Mazuz Kareem, Tony Stubbings and Anthony Smithson. Thank you very much to one and all of you. It is very much appreciated.
Yes, indeed. And if you want to become a patron or donate to the show, you can find that via our website, as always. So it's time to say hello to everyone in the chat room this evening, in the YouTube chat room. Hello to one and all. We've got a massive amount of people in there this week. Awesome. Hello to Lee Davies. We've got Richard Adams in there. We've got Sturman. Hello to you, Gareth. Hope you're well. And we have got Alex Robinson. Hello to you, Alex. Lane. We couldn't obviously do a show without Lane being in the chat room. Alan White. Hello to you, Alan. We've got the Bike Pilot. I haven't heard that one in there before, the Bike Pilot. Laura Davis. Hello to you, Laura. Hope you're well. Tony S. Graham Haley. Airshow World we had in there earlier. He'll be back again later on. The Air Stig, hello to you. Just make sure I don't miss anyone. Hello to Masha. Evan Shue, my word, it's obviously going to be really early where Evan is. Ali O, hello to you, Ali O. And scroll down, make sure I don't miss anyone on the list before we move on. Mark Priestley, hello to you, Mark Priestley, as well. And Neil Lamborn, hello to you, Neil. Good to see you. You've made it into the chat room this evening for the show. And I think I've got everyone on the list there. If I missed anyone, sorry. But thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. Great to see you all in there. Don't forget as well, if you're listening to the show as an audio podcast, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search for us, Plain Talking UK, over on YouTube, and click on the subscribe button. And don't forget the bell icon next door to it to be notified when we are live and recording new episodes like we are right now. And then you can join us in the chat room with all the other awesome family members. So it's that time where we're going to kick off then the start of the show, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from across the world and the UK. So if everyone is ready,
certainly are.
Let's go.
Ready.
So, kicking off this week's first news story, this one comes to us from ftnonline.co.uk, and it's good news if you are training to become a pilot, because PPL training is expected to resume from the 12th of April this year. The UK Department for Transport has today updated its guidance for the general aviation community, detailing a 3-stage phase return to GA flying. The key dates aligned with wider pandemic lockdown recovery guidance are 29th of March, 12th of April, and the 17th of May. In all cases, GA activities should take place in line with the wider restrictions, and travel should be minimised as far as possible. 29th of March, solo flying and flying with household bubble members is going to be allowed. People will no longer be required to stay at home. This will allow the safe restart of GA flying for non-professional purposes for solo pilots or individuals flying with a member of their household bubble. Training for professional pilots or those in training to be professional pilots will be able to continue. Training for leisure recreational purposes should not take place, though. 12th of April, flight training for private pilots can resume. So flight training for all pilots and flights with an instructor can resume. GA businesses will be able to open following COVID secure guidance. For example, commercial balloon operators, outdoor gatherings must still be limited to 6 people, though, or 2 households. 17th of May, GA events can restart. Some large events will be permitted. These will be indoor events with capacities of 1,000 people or half full, whichever is less. In outdoor venues with a capacity of 4,000 people or half full, whichever is less. In the largest outdoor seated venues where crowds can be spread out, up to 10,000 people will be able to attend, or a quarter full, whichever is less. The government will lift most legal restrictions on meeting others outdoors, but gatherings of more than 30 people outdoors will remain illegal. Indoors, people will be able to meet socially in a group of 6 or with 1 other household, though it may be possible to go further than this at step 3, depending on the data. So things may be starting to resume and get back to some kind of normality within the UK, but it is good to see that the training will be able to resume for our GA community and obviously those who are learning to fly. So what do you think about this?
Really exciting. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Mm.
Been a long time coming. It's funnily enough, I've been missing the buzz of the little GA, because we get a lot round here, obviously, because we've got the airfield at Beccles. There's quite often a lot of people sort of floating around and stuff. And I must admit, I have been really missing that buzz. Do you get much over where you are, Nev?
A little bit, yes. Obviously, I'm not that far from Booker, which is Wickham Airfield. In fact, Mrs. Nev thought she heard a GA aircraft the other day, so I went tearing outside to have a look, and it was an A400M going into Brasenose.
Right.
So probably need to
Right.
give a bit of
Little bigger.
education.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's right up there with some of the media stories we've seen.
Well, yes, quite. Yes, it's a bit of a media fail there. From the Air Stinger, Canberra Balloon Spectacular starts today. It's 6:15 a.m. now. The briefing should be taking place right now, and the weather looks like it's going to play along. I wonder if Grant is there. That's the sort.
No, he's not going to be flying in that event. No.
Oh no! Well, yeah. I didn't know if he'd be there, sort of like commenting or something like that. But there we go.
Ray Davis might. Our listener Ray Davis. He's a keen balloonist, so he might be there. You never know.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. It's really exciting though to hear that obviously that Australia is sort of. I mean, I know they had a very, very extreme lockdown, didn't they? I mean, they went in proper sort of hardcore, didn't they, to get this sorted? So it's sort of exciting that that the work is sort of beginning to pay off for a few people. I think really it's just going to be so nice to I literally cannot wait for some kind of normality. I know this has all been done for our own good, I know, but just like I'm going to be a little bit excited when we're allowed to hug people again. I do warn anyone when that is allowed, if you don't like hugs, you will need to keep well away, because I won't be able to help myself. There's no two ways about it.
So next story is for Andy, and a foodie story, Andy.
Yes, so this is fancy in-flight food from two favourite airlines. It's on Simple Flying and the Point Sky as well. Lufthansa Group member Swiss is partnering up with a well-established Swiss confection company, Confiserie Sprungli, to boost its economy class service. The airline will work exclusively with the chocolate maker to introduce fresh items to its Swiss Saveurs menu for in-flight for purchase snacks from March the 30th on its Zurich network and from April the 28th for its Geneva network. Confiserie Sprungli is a long-established and internationally renowned Swiss family firm. The airline states that they are putting a firm emphasis on offering a wide selection of items on freshness and quality, on regional accents, and on sustainable packaging. Offerings include a Bertram muesli, a pretzel with air-dried beef, oh that sounds nice, a vegetable brioche, and Sprungli's famous Luxembourgly mini macaroons. Prices range from £7.50 Swiss francs, which is about £5.50 for individual items, to 18.50 Swiss francs, so about £14.50 for a freshly prepared hot meal on longer flights. The product range is expected to be updated every 3 to 6 months. And sticking with the food theme, Virgin Atlantic is bringing back the upper class meal experience. The airline announced on Monday that it's bringing back many of the favourite elements of the upper class dining experience after suspending them in July 2020 in procedural changes due to COVID-19. The returning services include welcome drinks, a choice of 3 hot meals, and a breakfast or light bite option. As part of the reintroduction of full meal service to the upper class experience, Virgin has also unveiled its spring menu. The 2 choices of starter in the spring menu include mozzarella and tomato salad with micro basil and cress, or a ciabatta roll with butter. The 3 main menu courses new for the spring include roast chicken breast with potato puree, sautéed spinach, girolles mushrooms and bourguignon sauce, artichoke tortellini with wilted spinach, grilled artichokes and a sage butter sauce, and roasted salmon fillet with lemon and spring onion giant couscous, grilled baby courgettes and a Cherville sauce. By that's a mouthful. The desserts
That's good. It's food. That's what we want. That's what we want.
The desserts on the spring menu include coconut lemon tartlet, seasonal fresh fruit, or cheddar, brie, and Stilton cheeses with crackers. We know our customers are missing that magical feeling you get when you step on board an aircraft ready to start your travels, Virgin Atlantic Chief Customer and Operating Officer Cornel Costa said in a statement. Whilst customers may not be able to travel right now, we're bringing back these little touches, including welcome drinks, hand-plated food, and more choice of meals, so that the first flight after lockdown feels even more special.
Wow, the boy from the northeast has gone posh, hasn't he?
Oh, I know. What happened there? Didn't he do well? Didn't he do well? Absolutely, very, very proud.
The pictures look amazing. I mean, the food looks bloody awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it really does look nice.
It's edible. Part of the experience, isn't it, when you go flying, a nice meal.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Yeah, what's the best meal that you've ever had on a plane, Andy? Let's start with you.
Well, I've been in BA Club a few times, and I've had beef and duck a few times on there. That was quite nice.
Nice.
Emirates do a lovely selection as well.
True.
Yeah, I can't really pin it down.
No. Okay. What about you, Matt? Any sort of personal favourites?
Probably the same as Andy mentioned there. Actually, I flew BA Club year before last, and we had the beef on there, and that was, for an airline meal, was fantastic. I thought, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like it's fresh off the grill, doesn't it? It's really
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Bounds, obviously, we go for our finer comment.
Well, indeed, but yeah, no, I agree with the guys there. Definitely in the Club Europe or Club World of BA, that's very nice. But actually, one of the ones I did have, which was very nice, going to Los Angeles once on Air New Zealand 747 on the top deck. That was very nice. Similar sort of style of food, but it was beautifully prepared, and yeah, absolutely fantastic, and no shortage of alcoholic beverage.
Oh dear! On the morning flight, I presume. Obviously.
That's right, it was.
I think Nev's being modest. He prefers foie gras and caviar. Really,
A good
doesn't he?
point. Yes, good point. Well made. What about you? What about you, Carlos? I mean, obviously you've perhaps not done the first class quite as much as the others.
Well, actually, I was going to say there's. I mean, I have to be the same as those guys, because the best meal I ever had, I think, was when I travelled back from Dubai with Nev in BA Club World with this fillet steak. The fillet steak was just ridiculously nice. But also, you know, to be fair, Emirates do really, really good food in economy and business. But yeah, I think definitely BA was that meal that me and Nev had on there. Don't you agree, Nev? That bloody fillet steak was
Absolutely, they did a nice job there, didn't they?
Wow.
Yeah, very, very pleasing on the palate.
and the Speedbird 100 as well.
Richard Adams is saying I had a great flight from Brisbane to where's that? Launceston, sorry, once, and the meal was just a pie. Very nice, though. Well, I mean, that's true. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have any nice food stories that I can share with anyone, because I've never been lucky enough to do that.
Perhaps airlines should have a good old-fashioned pie and mash menu.
Or bangers and mash or something like that, yeah. Well,
Go full
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I'm a big fan of the ham and cheese panini that Ryanair do. That's my only experience of airline food. It's very nice. Okay.
Anyway, Matt, we're going to move away from food, and Matt, we're going to go to bulk seating next.
Right, okay, all right. So this is from several sources again. So it's Click Avio, Simple Flying, Flight Global, to name but a few. And the headline is French B plans to apologise about my dog. He's going absolute bananas for some reason.
Alfie.
So, sincere apologies. So it is French B plans to put 488 seats on an Airbus A350-1000. Could this efficiency move be the key to making the low-cost long-haul model work? French low-cost carrier French B will soon be operating an incredibly efficient fleet of 6 Airbus A350s. The airline already has 4 A350-900s with 411 seats. However, it is also expecting to take 2 leased A350-1000s during 2021. The following arrivals will feature, forthcoming arrivals, will feature a massive 488 seats each. Wow. When compared to how other operators of the type have theirs configured, the difference is striking. Qatar Airways flies the A350-1000 with 327 seats, while British... Wow, hang on. Whoa. So there's a difference of like 488 versus 327 seats, while British Airways has 331. This kind of new level density will greatly increase French B's fuel efficiency, with the company potentially and theoretically operating a fully packed aircraft at 234 miles per gallon per seat. Wow. French B's new aircraft, which it will lease from an undisclosed lessor, will be able to accommodate 40 passengers in premium economy and 448 in economy class. While it's not certain which type of the A350 will operate the route, the airline has some very enticing transatlantic offers lined up for October. Return flights between Newark and Paris Orly are being marketed for as little as $254. This is comparable to Norwegian's lowest prices from London Gatwick to New York, when the now defunct long-haul division of the airline flew their 787s on the transatlantic route. It remains to be seen whether this low-cost long-haul high-density business plan will work for the company. French B is heavily relying on borders opening and leisure demand increasing very soon. Managing Director for French B, Muriel Assouline, said that we are a friends and family airline. If the leisure traveller cannot fly, then there is no market. I mean, I'm a bit
Some great
scared by
comments
those.
in the chat room.
I'm a bit scared by those numbers. That is quite. We're talking. I mean, what on earth is the seat pitch going to be if we're going to cram in 488 people into that?
Well, it's not.
I'm always concerned about the term high density. It sends shivers up my spine.
Absolutely, it's not a great sign. Richard Adams is saying that that sort of density they'll need to scatter straw on the floor. Right? Okay. A true example of cattle class lane is adding. I mean, there is a lot of truth in what's being said there.
I mean,
Alex Robinson is saying, are we sure they haven't confused the A380 with the A350? Good point.
We flew on the Dash 1000, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought the seating arrangements on BA's Dash 1000 were really nice.
Yeah.
Laura's saying, by the way, we'll have to have people in the overhead bins as well. I think that's.
They'll have to have people in the cargo hold at this rate to fit all those.
Right, I mean, it might be a bit fresh.
I can see this working for French B, though, because the only way to truly make money low cost is to pack the thing out. And if you can get a cheap ticket across the Atlantic, people will pay it.
Yeah. No, that is true. Yeah. I mean, 234 miles per gallon per seat is an incredible number, isn't it? I mean,
pretty impressive, yeah.
The trouble is, as being a tall and wide person, he says, using his words diplomatically, the seat density for me would be a serious concern. That's the only thing that worries me. A 40 in premium economy, John's telling me.
I think it's way too many.
Great, yeah, okay.
But it's not only that. It's not only the seat pitch and the distance and blah 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 and this that and the other. It's how long the aircraft will take to load as well. You know, you've got to take that into account as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they've thought about that.
Anyway, moving on, Nev, you've got some vicious cats.
Oh, yes, and it's on simpleflying.com. And listener warning, this story does contain one or two puns. I can't imagine why the production team thought I was the most appropriate.
Brace yourselves.
To read this out. But it says that a scheduled flight from Sudan to Qatar was forced to return to its origin after the cockpit was hijacked by a furry infiltrator. The clawful situation arose after a cat thought to have stowed away during cleaning woke up and became terrified by his new surroundings. He attacked the captain, causing the plane to return to Khartoum and giving passengers a hysterical story of a flight gone wrong. Some aviation stories are positively unbelievable, but in this case, we're not kidding around. A Tarco Airlines flight from Khartoum to Doha had to return to its origin after pilots encountered a formidable opponent shortly after takeoff. The Boeing 737 departed Khartoum on time and was around 30 minutes into its journey when a catastrophe occurred. A feline stowaway appeared unexpectedly in the cockpit to the great surprise of the Sudanese pilots. According to a report in Al Sudani, the kitty was not a happy passenger and proceeded to attack the captain. Whilst the crew made every attempt to capture the aggressive stowaway, it proved impossible to get near the furry hijacker. Unable to continue the journey, the pilots set about returning to Khartoum to the surprise of the passengers on board. Whilst you might assume that the naughty cat was an escapee from a passenger's onboard belongings, it seems that he was more likely to be a feral feline who sought a comfortable place to rest. Al Sudani reported that the plane was stationary in the hangar overnight for cleaning and preparations. It's believed that the cat crept on board and found a comfortable spot to rest in the cockpit. Of course, the ICAO code for Khartoum is HSSS. And it's completely coincidental, but beautifully expresses the emotion felt by the cat at finding he was several thousand feet in the air.
I mean, I'm not at all surprised that the cat was perhaps a little unhappy about being in an aircraft, because I suppose if nothing else, like I've just seen the chat room, the chat pun, Nick Codling, how very dare you? I'm not feline too good after that story. Nev, you did very well there to sort of keep going, I'll be honest.
Yes, there's the potential for a fail there, wasn't there? Definitely.
Richard
Cat
Adams
was
has
certainly
suggested
taking the hiss.
Oh, Richard Adams has suggested that it was a strange tale. They found
they
the
did
perfect
a Cat
spot
3
to hide.
landing.
Laura Davis is saying.
Cat 3 landing.
Was claw reinforcement waiting for them when the aircraft landed? Alex Robinson has suggested. Lovely, keep them coming. Here we go. Any more for any more. Micah says define an airplane, and then I'm sure it would have been a PBY Catalina. Oh, I did. Yeah.
I think we should finish this with that captain on this flight sure had a nice tale to tell his kids.
Lovely. Actually, to be fair, that's not the only story this week that involved felines and transportation. Slightly off topic, but something that's more in my remit of interest. There was a very famous. There were pictures here. There was. No, I don't like aviation. You know, I don't like aviation. It's just like there we go. All my hosts are horrified. Yeah, you know, I don't do flying and stuff like that. You know. Anyway.
Oh, the cat on the train.
The cat on the train. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was several routes. I think it was one particular route was delayed for quite a long time because basically, despite everyone's best efforts,
that
the cat
looks really
not.
like Poppy.
That does look like Poppy, doesn't it? Yes. Was she missing at all a couple of days ago? Just out of interest.
Pops. Come in.
Oh dear. Never mind.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next story, Matt. You've got this one all about steps. Yeah.
Yeah, the stories
Are you
don't
gonna be
get
all right
any less strange.
You're going to be all right with the pronunciations on this one, Matt?
Well,
Are you gonna be
I think
all right?
mine's a bit harder than Andy's. It
Right.
says ladder.
Give him his dues. He's stepping up to this story.
Yeah.
So.
For goodness sake.
So yeah, we continue with our string of bizarre stories with a ladder on the runway at Birmingham Airport, and this is following a report from the AAIB about basically a ladder left on a runway. 3 passenger aircraft narrowly missed a step ladder that had fallen off the back of an airport maintenance truck and was left on the runway as they landed, an investigation has found. Now, the prober said that the 6-foot or 2-meter item was not removed until after the 3rd plane had touched down at Birmingham Airport.
Wow.
I know. Aviation authorities have ruled a bungee cord fastening the ladder secure was not suitable. The airport has since changed procedures, I assume to a bigger bungee. I don't know. Nobody was hurt by the object's presence in the middle of the runway, and none of the planes were damaged. But a report by the AAIB said that with landing speeds in excess of 120 knots, an aircraft hitting an object, such as a ladder, may have resulted in substantial damage, which I think anyone that flies aircraft will know that you don't have to hit a very big object to cause a significant amount of damage.
No, mainly because of the speeds, presumably.
Yeah, and, you know, it flicks up and all sorts of things that could cause damage on, certainly. Now, assuming that the aircraft all landed with their nose wheels astride of the centerline of the runway and using landing gear dimensional data from the 737, it means that the ladder was between 0.2 meters and 2.29 meters from the line. So we're not talking very far away, are we? From
Nobody lands on the
close
center
that
line,
was.
Matt. You know that.
No, well, that's what they've assumed. You see, if they were off the centre line, 0.2 meters. So yeah, pretty close. They said that the ladder was among the apparatus of 2 airport technicians who'd been working on runway 33's approach lights on the 8th of September 2020. As they accelerated on their way to their next task, the ladder fell from their truck and came to rest just to the right of the runway centerline. 3 aircraft later touched down with the item in their sight. The crew of the second aircraft, a Boeing 737, was the first to alert air traffic control, reporting that an unknown object appeared to be on the runway. The third aircraft then reported it had seen something similar. That third aircraft, the 757, was warned there could be something on the runway, but the crew decided to land and then reported seeing a stepladder. The object was then found near the touchdown zone. The report said a bungee cord used to secure it to the truck came from the maintenance organisation's own suppliers, and while more suitable securing equipment was available, it was not readily to hand. At first sight, the bungee may have seemed suitable to secure the ladder the investigation found, but added that the way it was attached to the truck was unsuitable because it was stretched almost to its limit. An airport spokesman said the site had carried out a full investigation with changes identified. Their statement read, "The vast majority of these plans have now been actioned, which include the revision of procedures, issuing of specific control measures and practical assessments. We have also focused on training and harmonisation of working practices involving and engaging with employees across the operation to empower and embed the changes." Plenty of buzzwords in there for their report. We are extremely grateful to the AAIB for their comprehensive report, and we stress that Birmingham Airport is committed to providing safe and secure environment for all those that use the facility. So yeah, bizarre, and just what rotten luck that it was at the touchdown zone just off the centre line as well.
Speaking of AAIB cooperation, I actually downloaded the report. It's a 20-page report, and all I could think of was, can you imagine being the one investigator in the middle of the night that gets called up and says, "Hey, we need you to go out there because there was a ladder on the runway." And over the next 6 months, you're authoring a 20-page report documenting how there was a ladder in the middle of the runway. You know, that's your aviation safety investigations at work.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen H is suggesting in the chat room also that very essentially that however many page report that you refer to says new procedure, make sure that they don't drop the ladder. Simple as that, really.
That poor investigator has gone through CCTV footage. That's all in the document. There's a lot of stuff in here for a ladder that's fallen off.
I would love to know what the reaction was if they had it on CCTV of the two technicians getting out of their truck and realising there was no ladder in the back.
And how long did it take them to realise? How long did it take them to realise? That's the other question. How long was it before they went,
of that.
Hang on.
I think it would have been a bit Laurel and Hardy, just stood there scratching their heads, just thinking, where's it gone?
We had a ladder. I'm sure we had a ladder.
The worrying thing for me is the second crew that landed reported it, and then ATC just let the 757 continue. And that crew decided, yeah, all right, we'll give it a go.
I mean, you'd have thought that they'd have perhaps, asked for, sort of say, can you just do a quick go around, please?
I mean, let's face it, Birmingham Airport is not exactly the smoothest runway in the world at the best of times. Looks like some sort
of... Good point, actually.
That is true, yeah.
Might not have even noticed if you hit the ladder.
I was going to say, so they just thought it was standard operating procedure.
It is a pretty rough runway there, yeah.
Yeah, Richard Adams is suggesting something else to be added to the NOTAMs. Watch out for ladders, yeah. Wow. Okay. I think we've got all the amount of puns and stuff we can get out of that particular story.
Blimey. Let's move on to a story that hopefully won't have any puns. Although, you never know. Alex has got a good point apparently. First of all, why are you taking a ladder onto a runway in the first place? Which is a good point. I mean,
well, it says if they were doing the approach lights, they're obviously on stilts, aren't they? So they might have been doing the approach lighting.
Yeah, and after the extension at Birmingham, the approach lights are really accessible from the extended. It's not extended threshold. What's it called? The run up. Anyway, they're very accessible from there. So they'll have just parked on the end of there and gone with the ladders.
Oh, I see. Okay, rather than needing things like sort of jerry pickers and stuff like that to gain access.
Perhaps upgrade from a flatbed truck to a van. This wouldn't happen.
I mean, a van with doors on would have probably prevented this. Let's be honest.
You trying to get work here, Carlos? Is that what it is?
He's got his new van. He's very excited.
Got a new van.
Yeah, anyway. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very nice blue shiny van as well at the moment.
I love my new van.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next one, Armando. This one's for you. And a Guinness World Record happened this weekend.
I should stress, I'm very much looking forward to hearing Armando pronounce all these Welsh names. Everybody, grab a coffee, get comfy.
Well, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, continuing on with non-traditional stories, 2 women from Wales have broken the Guinness World Record for the fastest 20-meter A320 aircraft pull by a team of 2. That's a record. We should all aspire to break that record. Strong women Sue Taylor Franklin and Sam Taylor broke the record by pulling an Air Moldova A320 across a 20-meter marker in 37.63 seconds. So there's our goal, Carlos. Not only do these strong women break records together, but Sue and Sam are married and live in Llanrumney with their 10-year-old son, Ollie, who is cheering them on for the day. The women had 3 minutes to haul the 48-ton narrow-body A320 across the tarmac of at St. Athens airfield in Wales. Taylor and Taylor Franklin, age 42 and 52, are currently ranked as the first and second strongest women in Britain. Sam, 42 years old, achieved second place as Europe's strongest woman in 2019. She also has records for 2 years running for the 90 kilogram squats, benches, and deadlifts for Wales. And prior to Sunday, Sue, age 52, also had 2 British deadlifting records and 9 mixed powerlifting records achieved in just 2 years after she started training a week after her 50th birthday. They told the local media that they were recruited by Guinness Book of World Records to break this record in celebration of St. David's Day, which is every year on March 1st. Taylor told the Berrien District News, "It was so weird because 2 years ago, while on holiday in Dubai, I had a thought that I'd like to try and break a record as the first Welsh woman to pull a plane. The idea had fallen by the wayside until they got a call from Guinness World Records." Both women have also qualified for the World's Strongest Woman 2021 competition, which is set to take place in Florida later this year. As part of this Guinness event, a man from Wales also broke the record for being the fastest man to single-handedly pull an A320 for a distance of 20 meters. Matt's going to take care of that record when we go out to Wales at some point. Strongman Mark Jeans, who is nicknamed the Welsh Dragon, pulled the jet the required distance in 31.3 seconds.
I mean, actually, that last video there that I was playing, in fact, I'm going to run it again because it was really quite impressive.
I was actually going to say, it's worth pointing out, Matt, that A320 wasn't a stripped A320.
No, it was complete. But there was quite a lick of speed there towards the end. Sorry, when they start pulling, if you're watching the video here, obviously we'll make sure these are in the links to these are in the show notes, obviously, as well, for those of you listening to the audio version of this. But actually, I mean, if you look at that, they get a real move on. Once they've got the once they've got the sort of the initial momentum underway. I mean, it's proper moving, isn't it? They're having to sort of move quick. Really good.
It's unbelievable.
A320 guys, have you guys ever had to do this when the tug doesn't work or something?
I haven't before, but it's a good idea. I might bear that in mind.
It saves a trip to the gym.
I'll have to bulk up a bit before I attempt that.
After lockdown, the last thing I need to do is bulk up.
Ain't that the truth?
I was going to say, Matt and Andy, if you two guys are ever flying together, at least you've got this inspiration here that if you ever get stuck, you could
just tie a rope to the front and move it around yourself.
Pull your 320.
I'm sure that doesn't break any rules whatsoever on airport property. I'm sure that's absolutely fine.
My question is, how do we get back in?
Good point. Well made.
Ropes.
Well, I was going to say they'll probably send the same AAIB investigator out that researched the ladder incident.
He can go through hours of CCTV to see me and Matt pulling the thing behind us.
Oh, for God's sake. Yeah. Oh, dear. I can say, if you guys ever do that, we want that video for the show, right? Yeah.
You have first dibs.
Right.
Excellent.
That's a no then. Excellent. Lovely.
Nev, okay. we want that in 4K, Nev.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, next story. This one comes to us from aviationweek.com and airbus.com. Singapore Technologies Engineering has inducted its first A320 passenger to freighter conversion, or P2F. It marks the beginning of the world's first ever A320 P2F conversion. Work will be carried out at ST Engineering's Seletar facility. The Singapore MRO expects to take in 30 passenger aircraft for conversion this year on the back of a strong demand for freighters. ST Engineering told Aviation Daily that it had inducted 10 aircraft for the conversion in 2020 and expected to triple that number this year. According to Aviation Week Intelligence Network Fleet and Data Services, ST Engineering's A320 was formerly operated by Indigo as Victor Tango India Hotel Mike, or MSN 2737. It first flew in March 2006 under Brazil's TAM, or Linhas Aéreas, with CIT Leasing Group as the lessor. It was returned in 2017 before starting its second life with Indigo in April 2018, before going into storage in October 2020. In Overall, the A320 clocked 25,159 cycles and 40,376 hours. The finished A320 P2F will have 10 positions on the main flight deck, or on the main deck, I should say, and 7 in the lower deck, with a total cargo payload of 21.9 tons. The longer A321 P2F has 14 and 10 positions on the main and lower deck, respectively. Elbe Luxembourg, AFW, ST Engineering's German-based joint venture with Airbus, redelivered the first A321 P2F to Valair, operated by Qantas for Australia Post in October of 2020. ST Engineering said it is looking to set up new conversion lines at its Yemen, China facility and in the US at its subsidiary VT San Antonio. So come on in, our A320 pilots on the show. What do you think about this for a change? Flying freight rather than passengers.
Now, I'd happily do that because I am a night owl. I prefer to go to bed at 5 a.m. than get out of bed at 5 a.m. It's interesting. That is actually quite a young aircraft that's being converted there. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that the reason that Airbus never actually built any of these is that the production line was never free enough. They had so many orders for passenger aircraft. There was never any capacity in the production line to produce a freight aircraft, which is why they're having to do these conversions on older airframes. I think it's a great idea. You know, it's as much as you'll hate to hear this, Carlos, you know, the A320 family is increasing and becoming much more dominant, and certainly for airlines that want to operate both passenger and cargo, it gives them the ability to have one fleet, whereas before they wouldn't be able to do that.
And there's a P2F already in the UK. Titan have got a 321. And they're just they're going to increase their fleet because Titan are going all Airbus in the end. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these. I can see DHL having them. I can definitely see FedEx having them in the future as well.
DHL have still got a 300, haven't they? A300.
Yeah, the 300 600R, yeah. Proper aeroplane, that.
I saw that yesterday, actually. It took off in front of us yesterday.
Oh, wow. I mean, do you think some of this is actually being sort of, I don't know if the word exacerbated is the right one, but I mean, do you think some of these sort of conversions are being accelerated because there isn't the demand for the passenger variant right now? I mean, do you think that's why some of these conversions are taking place, or is it just a coincidence?
I think it helped.
Oh, hello. Sorry, we're having a couple of issues in the studio here. Hang on, just bear with it. It's right. They're coming back. Hello, there we are.
Hello.
Apparently, my internet connection is unstable, so that's always fun on a live show, isn't it? There we are. Right, as you were.
The joy with having a 320 converted alongside 330 freighters is it's basically a single type rating for these companies as well.
That's true.
They can have guys flying packages around Europe one day, and then the next day transatlantic, trans-Pacific, whatever you want, down to Hong Kong. Or it's cost effective.
I don't think this is necessarily... I mean, it might from now be accelerated due to COVID, but I think all of this stuff will have been in the pipeline for quite a long time. And I think the time before last, when I came in, I think I did a story about this, actually, possibly. So it's been planned for quite a long time.
That's a fair comment. Yeah.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, the Titan one is actually convertible, isn't it? They can put a pallet of seats in, is that correct?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, that is a convertible.
A pallet of seats? That's... Wow.
Yeah,
that's easy to get people off then.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not new technology. I mean, quite a lot of Titan's old aircraft had that. They sort of slide rows of seats in. It's like an overnight fit, but
that's like QC, the quick change, quick convertible, whatever that stands for.
Okay.
And they can just lock it into the floor of the
most
aircraft.
Military aircraft, or at least military cargo aircraft, have that same configuration where you can just put a pallet of seats on there. On a C-17, KC-135.
A lot of the old 737s flying up in Alaska, for example, you can do that. You can swap them out or do them as combis.
Ah, nice. Well, there you are. Every day's a school day, isn't it?
Yeah. It certainly is. So we all love a mystery destination holiday, but Nev, what are Qantas doing?
Yes, I was a bit worried when I saw this story because I thought, oh no, the FMS has mucked up again. But no, it's actually a real situation. And on simpleflying.com, they're saying that hot on the heels of a couple of successful flights to nowhere last year, Qantas is running some one-off mystery flights over the next few months. Mystery flights aren't new in Australia. You may recall that East West, Ansett and Australian Airlines all offered them once. Now Qantas is getting on board, offering a fresh take on an old idea. Our customers tell us that where they can and can't travel within Australia has been a bit of a mystery lately, says Qantas Group Chief Customer Officer Stephanie Tully. As well as helping bring more of our people back to work, these mystery flights are another way to support tourism operators in regional areas, especially those who have been hit particularly hard by several waves of travel restrictions. There's going to be 3 flights using 737-800 aircraft flying from 3 cities. The first mystery flight will operate out of Brisbane on Saturday, March the 27th, then out of Sydney on Sunday, April the 18th, and finally out of Melbourne on Saturday, May the 1st. It's not just the flights that Qantas have got lined up. The airline is organising a day's worth of stuff to do when you land, and that's all covered in the ticket price. But being a mystery flight, Qantas isn't saying where you'll be heading to until the descent into the destination begins, but they do promise to tell you whether to bring your tiara or thongs. Well, mine's in the wash, so I can't use that, obviously. But the airline says that destinations will be around 2 hours flying time of the respective cities. However, there are a few tantalising clues. Ex-Sydney passengers can expect the tropics, salt water on your skin and long lunching on the beach. Brisbane passengers are primed to expect country hospitality, gourmet food and wine and the great outdoors. And if you're flying out of Melbourne, Qantas says that passengers can expect the great outdoors, including walking, gourmet food and wine and regional farmers markets. Experiences on the ground could include anything from a winemaking course to a gourmet lunch with musical entertainment on the shores of a tropical island wonders, says Qantas. Tickets go on sale, in fact, they've just gone on sale yesterday on March the 4th. The fares start from 737 Australian dollars in economy class and 1,559 Australian dollars in business. Ticket prices cover everything for the day, including food and drinks. Simple Flying believes passenger numbers on the flights will be capped at 120. That's my kind of trip, actually, a mystery flight. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? What a laugh that would be.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, before you say anything, Matt, I would totally do it. I would totally do it.
Okay, all right. I accept that in almost all circumstances here, I am the anomaly. Yeah,
I know you're a particular chap, Nev, but I didn't know you put your flip-flops in the wash.
That's right, yes. Yes, of course, they call that item differently there to what we call them here, don't they?
Right. Okay. That explains everything. Okay. Matt's actually sent me a picture of the pallet seating. Unfortunately, I can't get it up on screen because he's sent it to the wrong number. But that's really cool. It is literally like sort of loading. I mean, how do they get it inside though? I mean, is there because it's sort of quite a full on sort of arrangement of seats, isn't it? So is it there like a wide loading door that they come in via?
Yeah, it's basically like a cargo door.
Right.
So the whole side will come up because it has to be on a freighter and it'll just slide in sideways just like cargo would.
Okay, hang on. It's just been sent to me to the other number. So let me. It's not doing what I wanted to do. Of course, it's not. It would never do what I wanted to do in a live show, would it? I mean, that would be far too marvelous. Am I rambling slightly?
Yes.
There are some great videos on YouTube of the whole operation of it on other aircraft. It's the same on that.
Yeah, there we go. There's the picture that they were that Matt sent. I think that's just brilliant. I mean, part of me's thinking like I'm amazed they don't do more of this. Do you know what I mean? Where they could be multi-use the aircraft.
Yeah, and you can see there's two guys there. They're actually pushing it, so they're probably taking them out in this photo.
Right.
But yeah, they're obviously pushing them on the rollers on the floor there, and then once they're in position, they just lock them down and
and
Bring
that's
the
it.
next row in.
Yeah.
As a complete aside, I read a great article. UPS used to use a lot of their 727s in this way and did weekend flights for passengers down to Cancun and places like that, and then brought them back on a Monday and then converted the aircraft back to fly cargo all week and then did the same again the following week. The only problem comes, it gets expensive to maintain it, and having the big door is actually a weight penalty as well.
Oh, I see. Pip's in the chat room, by the way, Andy, and he's a little bit overexcitable about your axes that you have in the background there.
Yeah, we're having a chat about the guitars in the background there in the chat. It's all right. You haven't seen the best bit. There's the arcade machine as well.
Look at that. Oh my goodness! What's the game? What's the game?
Street Fighter.
Oh no!
That's
way.
amazing. Oh, I'll tell you what, you need to hurry up and get that pub built. I cannot wait to come over for a beer.
Don't tell everybody about.
Oh, all right. Oh, sorry. Right, sorry. Oops, I've had wine. I apologise.
My back garden's going to be full before long.
It's all right. Socially distanced, of course.
So you mean you don't have the same issue with that, Andy, as like what I do in here with sort of buying various pieces of aircraft and sim equipment and stuff?
No, but we all accept you have a problem, Carlos. That's the difference.
This
This
is my room. I'm allowed to do what I want in it.
Yeah. It's probably worth stressing it's the only room in the house that he's allowed to do what he wants with.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're a little
Feel
off
your
topic.
pain.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's time to move on with the next part of the show, and it's back again this week, and we've all been looking forward to this. I know I have, as well as my father. So it's time for another Plain Truth, where this week it's all about the safest place to sit on an aircraft.
Hello and welcome to another Plain Truths, and this week we're going to be finding out where is the safest place to sit. Joining me as always is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi, Captain Al.
Good evening, Matt.
Now listen, this was actually sent in by one of my friends, actually, James and Jill, and they asked, is there a safer place to sit in the event of a major incident on an aircraft?
Well, I'd say that if you know where the major incident is going to take place on the aircraft, then sit anywhere away from it.
Right,
but
okay. Take another flight.
Yes, but we're not privy to that sort of information. So I'll give you a second humorous answer to the question, and then we'll get down to the nuts and bolts. If it was me, I'd sit towards the rear of the aircraft, because very few aeroplanes reverse into mountains.
Right.
But being serious, as an aside, the flight data recorders, the all famous black boxes, they're in fact orange, are located in the tail section because statistically, the safest place for them to be located is in the tail. So the tail sections are quite often relatively intact with aircraft accident because usually they don't collide tail first with terrain if they're going to do some horrific sort of descending dive into the ground or to water. They tend to go nose first. But let's kind of move a little bit away from that because we don't have the option to sit on top of the flight data recorders in the tail. So you could say, okay, well, why don't I sit in the rear rows of the aircraft? And sure, lots of studies have been done as to where statistically the safest place to sit is. And, you know, there's no real exact answer to this because it varies quite greatly on aircraft type and also the nature of the accident or incident. You know, quite clearly, if a fire starts in the rear galley, then you're safer at the front of the aeroplane than at the back. So like any sort of statistical analysis, it's difficult to come up with a solid answer. What I would say is that we can look at where is most comfortable to sit, and arguably towards the middle of the aircraft where the wings are is the area that's going to experience the least amount of effect from turbulence. But to go back to the safety question, there is quite a lot of study that's been done with regards to whether in an aeroplane we should be facing forwards or backwards, because if you ever travel on a military aircraft, the majority of passenger seats face in the opposite direction to what we're used to. In other words, we face towards the back of the aeroplane, such that if the aeroplane was involved in an accident, the deceleration forces that apply to our body, sorry scientists, I know that it is still acceleration, but in the negative sense, but when we're decelerating, I find it easier to talk about deceleration forces that are on our body, inflict less in the way of kind of whiplash on us than if we were facing in the forward direction. Now, most passengers who've travelled on civilian airliners will never have sat facing backwards. I've travelled on a Flybe-8 in the past, that in the first few rows, some of the seats did face backwards, and it's quite unusual. Cabin crew, of course, get quite used to facing in the wrong direction. Those who are, in charge of the aircraft, certainly on sort of smaller aircraft, A320, A321 type aeroplanes, the senior cabin crew will almost certainly be at doors 1 and facing backwards, because they need to see the whole passenger cabin if we had to evacuate. So the honest answer to the question is a lot of scientific studies have been done. The jury is out, and I would just say sit where you feel most comfortable.
As always, Captain Al, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Well, welcome to our London studios. Welcome to the A320 Lounge webinar tech presentation, obviously for the 320 series.
Welcome to the A320 and 737 Lounge, bringing technical refresher courses directly to you. Using our cutting-edge broadcasting facilities, enjoy a fully interactive technical refresher course from the comfort of your own home. All of our webinars are live, and you can ask your instructor a question at any point during the day. All of our instructors are highly experienced and can help you. No more expensive nights away from home, no new software required, just an internet connection. Courses are run at regular intervals, so check out A320 Lounge and 737lounge.com for more details.
There we go.
Great plane truths as always, Mr. Smith.
Actually, I'd like to point something out if I may. I'm going to try and find. I've lost the picture, so just bear with me a moment while I locate it. But I wonder if anybody noticed that there's been a little bit of work done to the new series of the Plain Truth, where we've got a lovely yellow colour. I wonder if anybody noticed if there's been the change in this particular photograph.
Don't tell them. Just wait to see if.
Just wait and see if the chat room actually notices, shall we? Talk amongst yourselves while we're waiting for the lag to catch up.
But yes, and also we've got to say that, of course, today is Captain Al's.
Oh, it is. Yes, that is very true.
Start us off, Matt. Start us off.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Captain Al. Happy birthday to you. That was horrendous. Lovely. Well done, everyone.
Look at that. Lane Street already.
Yes,
Lane
Street's
in the chat room.
Yeah, Lane's not hanging about, is he? So it's that Al's got his 4th bar. Look, at long last. There we go.
He's been promoted today.
He has indeed.
His birthday.
Is it a promotion, or is it just the fact that producer John has finally got down? Ironically, he was telling me actually that it took him more time to add that additional bar to his stripes. To the thing that did to edit the whole of the Plain Truth, which I'm not at all surprised about. But
well,
anyway.
I'm sure Al is waiting patiently for the extra 0 on his paycheck for all the contributions he's made to the show.
Good point. Yes, absolutely. John, make a note. Add an additional 0 right now, please.
Of course, as a captain on the Plain Truths now, I guess we should include him in some of the production meetings then, huh?
No, I don't think so.
Not just doing the pre-flight.
I don't think anybody. Nobody wants that. No, nobody wants that. Least of all, Captain Al. Absolutely. Okay. Now we've got a very, very special show coming up very soon, and I think Armando, let's start with you, shall we?
Well, I got to tell you, I've been really just stepping back from all of this, as we all have, and I've been watching these ladies work extremely hard, sending out tons of emails, and they've actually received some fantastic feedback already. But next week, I can't believe it's already here. Our International Women's Day special episode is next week. We're going to have Dr. Steph here. We're going to have my beautiful wife, Megan, Ariel Tweedo from Flying Wild, Alaska, airshow performer Jody Ruger, and Kathy Mexted, who is very experienced as cabin crew. In addition to so many just fantastic pieces that we've received in, and they've been just planning this show. I'm a little bit afraid because it's going to make the rest of our shows look a little bit substandard as any one of us would expect. So be sure to tune in live for that one next week. And oh man, I'm just excited about it. And Carlos and I think are just going to be watching, having our own watch party with some popcorn and some beer.
Hell yes. Amen to that.
Yeah, I mean, spare a thought for me and John having to work, because I've still got to drive the desk. I don't know quite what I did wrong there.
Nev, would you like to join our popcorn party?
Why not? Absolutely, yes. Great idea.
Yeah, wine not?
Well, champagne and caviar for Nev.
Of course, absolutely. We don't. Yeah. Yes, sensible snacks for Nev only.
Yeah, and that's for me. That's only because Orville Redenbacher doesn't make caviar.
Wow. Okay, good to know. Okay, it's time to move on then. And Armando, you're in the chair for this as well.
I can't believe I'm not actually pressed for time today. So we're going to draw this out as long as we can.
I mean, we can soon change that. I'm sure. If
oh man, I actually heard Nev's breath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We're going to slow it down just a little bit for military. Now, Matt, if you're ready, hit the button. All right, well, speaking of long in the tooth, after 36 years, the Marines are in their F-18
Hang on, you don't get away with that. What? Who was that directed at?
Just use your imagination.
Okay.
Anyway, they've completed their final carrier deployment. Marine Corps F-18 Hornets have flown off the flight deck of a Navy aircraft carrier for the last time. But members of Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 323, known as the Death Rattlers, have returned to California last week after a 10-month deployment on the aircraft carrier Nimitz. It was the final F-18 Hornet carrier deployment for the Marine Corps, officials said in a news release about this historic mission. The squadron is transitioning, of course, to the F-35B Joint Strike Fighter. The Hornets flew more than 35,000 flight hours. Look, somebody's adjusting the show notes. And 14,000 missions during the deployment. I'm going to guess that's during all of their deployments. That's probably a media typo there. They fired nearly 250,000 rounds of ammunition, according to the Marine Corps, while supporting Carrier Air Wing 17 in the Middle East and the Pacific. Rear Admiral James Kirk, who is the commander of the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, said last week,
Hang on.
He's probably only been in the Navy for about 3 years, but he got promoted to Rear Admiral just because his name is James Kirk.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say so. That's the Enterprise and also Rear Admiral of this particular vessel.
Well, that would be great if he got command of the Enterprise. Anyway, so he said that these Marines met the mark. Sea Power magazine reported that those maintainers did a great job. Those Marine pilots executed fantastic missions. They supported missions in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, East Africa during the deployment. The strike group also operated alongside other carriers in the South China Sea. The squadron has actually worked alongside the Navy for decades. It supported the Battle of Okinawa under the command of Admiral Chester Nimitz, for whom the carrier group was named, in 1945, according to the Marine Corps, and began preparing for its first of many carrier-based operations 2 years after that. The next time the squadron heads out to sea, it'll be flying the F-35. So Marine leaders say that the stealth aircraft will give the sea services the edge as the Navy and Marine Corps face more sophisticated adversaries. So in related news, this other one comes to us from navaltechnology.com. 2 F-35B Joint Lightning II strike fighters are undergoing sea trials aboard the Italian Navy aircraft carrier Cavour. Specially instrumented U.S. F-35Bs were flown by the test pilots from Naval Air Station Patuxent River in Maryland to the Italian Navy flagship carrier on 28 February. The F-35 is of course, stealthy, supersonic, multi-role fighter developed by Lockheed Martin for the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine, as well as NATO and U.S. allies. This version is the short takeoff and vertical landing variant of the F-35. So this test team comprises of approximately 180 staff from Pax River, the F-35 Integrated Test Force. Sea trials are expected to take place for up to 4 weeks. Now, I did read in a different news source that they're actually doing this in Florida. Let's see, the ITS Cavour commanding officer, Italian Navy Captain Giancarlo Ciappina, said, "It is a remarkable achievement for all of us today to see the 5th generation fighter aircraft on our flight deck. This represents indeed an outstanding success, but at the same time, a new challenge for the future of Italian naval aviation." The test pilot, one of the test...
Oh, sorry, we're having
Center Aircraft Division Air Test and Evaluation Squadron 2-3. My goodness, I'm with Nev on this one. What a mouthful. Anyway, they're going to fly these F-35s during the flight test there in Florida.
Apologies there, guys. We're having a couple of minor glitches here in the studio involving Zoom. Not my end, unfortunately. We seem to have a bit of a glitch here with Zoom. So apologies that we lost the guys for a few seconds there. But yeah, everybody gets the gist. More importantly, everybody heard the apology to Nev, which I think is the most important thing there.
Wait, was that part still in there, or was it?
Yes, that was still there. That's all good.
Forever in internet history.
Quite, absolutely. Wow. Okay.
Matt.
Yes.
Matt. Not you, Matt. Not Smith.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes.
Matt, you're next.
Yeah. So the next one is Boeing story, and it comes from autoevolution.com. And it is about the Boeing T-7 Redhawk US Air Force trainer enters production with a nod to the Tuskegee Airmen. Now, following a very brief development time, it went from the drawing boards to first test flight in just 3 years. Boeing's T-7 Redhawk entered production last week, opening the doors to a piece of technology the future pilots of the US Air Force will train on. The fighter-like machine is an evolution of the Boeing TX concept and has been developed by Boeing together with Swedish company Saab. It is powered by a General Electric turbofan engine capable of generating 17,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner while seating, of course, 2 pilots. Now, the plane was designed specifically with the US Air Force in mind. In fact, the military branch awarded Boeing a $9.2 billion contract back in 2018, asking it to provide in return 351 such planes, but also 46 associated ground-based training simulators. And what the company will deliver, it will offer trainee pilots an experience that is as real as it gets, they say. Now, as for the Tuskegee Airmen connection, the reference is more than obvious to the colour scheme used on the plane, but also in the name chosen for the trainer, which is supposed to be a nod to the Curtiss P-40 Warhawks and Tuskegee used to fly them into combat. Quite an interesting story. You'd probably know more about this, Armando, than myself, but I would guess it's much harder to make a military simulator realistic because, for example, in the commercial world, we only need to have visuals in front of us because we're looking out of windows that are only point forwards. Plus, we don't ever experience sustained G, so we only have to show like short accelerations. So it must be quite hard to get a simulator to give that full immersive feeling relative to a military aircraft.
Yeah, that's actually a great point that you bring up about that specific thing about the simulator part of this, because so this is going to be the first airplane when pilots finish training in the T6 Texan, which is a turboprop with a PT6 engine in it. They're going to go right to this airplane, and this airplane is it's the IKEA of airplanes. It's configurable from a very basic mission all the way through advanced, interconnected, complex missions, and the students in the simulator will be real-time connected to other aircraft. Most likely, they're going to have some kind of virtual reality attached to their helmets. So they're going to have both cockpit trainers as well as VR trainers, augmented reality trainers. And this is usually technology. I think we did a couple stories of a couple airlines that are using VR and augmented reality in full motion simulators already. But this is the kind of technology that eventually flows out to the civilian world. So I think you would be really impressed and almost completely how immersed you are while flying these airplanes.
Yeah, and it's quite an interesting technological leap, or for the actual pilots, because in the UK, for example, they go from the Tucano, which is a turboprop aircraft, to a Hawk. But this has got afterburners, and it's quite a step, isn't it, from the equivalent of the Tucano, I suppose, like a turboprop, to something with afterburners. It's quite interesting that they've made that sort of almost cut one stage out.
I think it looks like a baby F-18.
Yeah, a lot of these trainers are coming out, and they have that same sort of V-tail design with, it's pretty interesting. And some of the foreign fighter jets coming out and trainer jets are also using this kind of same design. But yeah, Matt, absolutely. It's been done for many years. This is actually a safer step because guys were flying, going from a T6 Texan 2 to a T-38, which is a fast, slippery airplane that is difficult to handle. So this will be a lot safer for them.
Cool.
So the next story is on the airforcetimes.com, and this is an aircraft that is 54 years old. So contract pilots in Mirage F1 suffer non-threatening injuries in Tyndall Air Force Base crash. So we've been talking a lot on the show recently about contract fighter jet support to the US military. 2 pilots aboard a Mirage F-1B fighter jet suffered non-life-threatening injuries after the aircraft slid off the runway at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida on Thursday morning, an official said for the aircraft owner. They told the Air Force Times. John Rupp, a spokesman for Airborne Tactical Advantage Company, said Thursday evening they are doing fine. He said one of our 2-seat Mirage F-1Bs supporting military flight training at Tyndall upon return slid off the runway. One of the pilots ejected. Both pilots are recovering in local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The company is still investigating to determine the cause of the incident. Tyndall officials said the incident occurred at 11:45 a.m. on Thursday off the end of the flight line, according to a statement posted on Twitter from Colonel Gregory Mosley, the 325th Fighter Wing commander. He said that Tyndall is working closely with ATAC to ensure thorough and timely investigation of the incident. ATAC, headquartered in Newport News, Virginia, with locations worldwide, trains Navy, Marine, Air Force, Army and international air crews, ship crews and combat controllers, or JTACs, in air-to-air and air-to-ship and air-to-surface arenas, according to their website. The Mirage F-1B is a 2-seat version of the French fighter attack and reconnaissance aircraft developed as a successor to the Mirage 3, the famous Delta-Wing fighter, according to the ATAC site. Yeah, this is a fairly old aircraft, actually, Armando. I was looking here. This is not in. I don't think it's in service actually with any air forces in the globe. It was in service with the French, Iraqi, the Hellenic Air Force in Greece, and the Spanish Air Force.
Yeah, we just did a story on this a couple weeks ago. Actually, this company ATAC is acquiring these retired fighter aircraft and using them as aggressors to train U.S. pilots with real aircraft, as we were just talking about. A little bit different than a simulator or anything like that, but pretty early on into their contract. I hope they don't go skidding airplanes down runways very, very much, or their contract might be in jeopardy for next year.
But the most important thing is they both are safe and well. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What sort of bricks does this aircraft have? Does anybody know? Does it need the engine to be running or something like that?
For what?
For the brakes to function. Does it
Brakes.
Oh, the brakes. Right. Because I'm in North Carolina.
Sorry.
Right. No, I think they have auxiliary systems also, and they have brake accumulators. So
Okay.
there are emergency ones also. This seems to be a collapsed nose gear from what it seems like. So
I'll bring an official. Sorry, I was going to say I'll bring an official translator next time I'm on.
Well, you know what's funny is we have a brick, and we consider all of our paperwork for the flight the brick. And that's what I thought you were asking about. So I was like, I don't know about the paperwork for this particular flight.
It's a reasonable excuse, so we've got to give him that, I suppose.
Nev, let's move over to Australia.
I think we should, and it's on warbirdsnews.com, and it says that the RAAF re-establishes number 100 Squadron as Air Force Heritage Squadron. Well, the Royal Australian Air Force number 100 Squadron will be reformed as the Air Force Heritage Squadron, operating from two locations, RAAF Base Point Cook and Temora, ahead of centenary commemorations of the service. The 100 Squadron was a RAAF bomber and maritime patrol squadron that operated during World War II. Raised in early 1942 from the remnants of a British unit that had been destroyed in Malaya, the squadron flew Bristol Beauforts from bases in Queensland and New Guinea, undertaking torpedo and level bombing sorties against Japanese targets in the Pacific Theatre. Following the conclusion of hostilities, the squadron was disbanded in August 1946. It's going to be reformed as the Air Force Heritage Squadron this month to operate airworthy warbirds. The Minister for Defence Personnel, Darren Chester, said that 100 Squadron had a proud history, and after a 75-year absence, it was fitting that the RAAF reactivates it in the same year as it commemorates its first 100 years. The 100 Squadron will fly a number of aircraft from the current Heritage Fleet from Point Cook, Victoria and Temora in New South Wales. The new Air Force Heritage Squadron headquarters at RAAF Base Point Cook would provide a historical connection to the community, and the re-establishment of 100 coincides with the centenary of the RAAF, which was formed on March the 31st, 1921. So there's a whole plethora of different aircraft based both at Point Cook and Temora, and just a couple of examples: Harvard Mustangs, Sopwith Snipe, Canberra, Cessna, Spitfire Mark 8, de Havilland Vampire, and all sorts of other, and a P-40 as well, actually, I've just noticed there, and a Tiger Moth. All sorts of classic wartime aircraft will be there. So that's a fantastic reactivation of what will be the 100th anniversary. After a 75-year absence. That's right. So it'll be its first 100 years. So fantastic.
Yeah, and as Richard Adams points out in the chat room, this would be a great job for Captain Nick. And I'm sure just based on the wisdom of his beard and mustache, they would accept him right into the pilot in command position.
Without question, yeah. Default position. So now, interestingly enough, there was mentions of some certain equipment in Andy's house that were there. Just FYI, here's a close-up of the gaming machine that is in Andy's rumpus room, for want of a better word. And that's Street Fighter right there, is it?
Yep, that's the one. Street Fighter 2.
Nice.
I also noticed the turtle's stool as well. It looks pretty cool.
I guess.
Yeah.
I was actually originally concerned about having a fully working throttle quadrant turning up at Carlos's house for his sim. Actually, this just pales into insignificance when you look at what Andy's turned up with. So.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to keep the nightmare that is Pip happy, there we go. There's a close-up picture of the weapons of mass destruction, shall we say? So there we go. That is a pretty nice collection there, to be fair. I'm more of a fan of the ones at the end there with the old 6 and 12 string. Are they both 6 strings, aren't they?
Yeah.
The acoustics.
6 acoustics, nice.
Yeah, we've got a 12 string here in that, but that's a bit brutal on the old fingers, it has to be said.
Not bad.
Okay. There we go. Anyway, nothing to do with aviation. Sorry, Armando. Do carry on. Armando's on mute.
Armando's on mute, so that's fine. So
Lovely.
Don't panic, because we have got a very special segment to bring you next. And as you know, we've been running a segment on the show for the last, for many weeks actually, from George Lee. And this week, we've reached the lofty heights of part 10 of the awesome interviews with George Lee. So if you're ready, Matt, hit the button.
you've also made that very difficult decision to leave the security of the Air Force. That must have been a difficult choice as well.
A big one, Nick, very big. We didn't want to send our children to boarding school. You, with your service background, would know, some kids thrive in it, others don't. Our kids didn't want to go to boarding school, and frankly, we didn't want to send them. So I had, of course, the option, a point of getting out of the military, 16 years commissioned service, or the age of 38. And Maren and I talked about it extensively, and we thought, right, let's do this for the sake of the children. But there was there was a major problem, because this was in the early 80s, and that was a particularly savage recession. And if I was going to leave the Air Force, what on earth was I going to do? Because the airlines were just not hiring, absolutely. And senior officers actually talked to me and said, are you really sure you know what you're doing, basically? And I put a brave smile on and said, oh, yes. But the Air Force was very good, because they said, look, if within 12 months of you leaving, you change your mind, we will have you back in. And,
that's kind of them.
They
didn't give me that choice.
Yeah, so that was a wonderful backstop. But this is where Tug Wilson comes in again. This is where Tug comes back in again. Everybody needs somebody like Tug in their life. I owe professionally, I know Tug everything, and that's not an exaggeration, I really do. He had left the Air Force at his 1638 point ahead of me, and he went off and joined Cathay Pacific. And he became a training captain on the TriStar. Now, Tug knew me very well, and we were in Christmas card, annual contact type thing. But suddenly I'm writing a letter to Tug saying, Tug, any chance of getting into Cathay? And he said, well, first thing you need to do is get yourself out here to Hong Kong, all right? Show motivation, see the place, etc., etc. So Maren and I flew out, bought ourselves tickets, and showed motivation by going out to Hong Kong. Tug's wife, Marlene, met us at the airport. Tug was en route. Marlene took us home, gave us the afternoon cup of tea, and suddenly the phone rings. So she goes over and answers it, and she says, it's for you, George. I said, excuse me? I've just stepped off an airplane from the UK, and it's for me? Tug, bless him, had set up, before he went off en route, he had set up a simulator assessment for me in Cathay. And they were ringing just to confirm the day, the time, that this was going to be on.
Oh, brilliant.
I couldn't believe it. I seriously couldn't believe it. Anyway, in due course, Tug arrives back, and we start chatting about this event, and it's going to be in the TriStar simulator. And he said, they won't give you raw data. It'll be flight directed ILSs and maybe fail an engine, that sort of stuff. Okay, so he gave me a little briefing, and off I went to the simulator. And of course, it was raw data. Thanks, Tug.
Yes, perfect preparation.
Anyway, it went very well, and the captain in charge of the whole exercise said, look, don't read too much into this, but as you're here, you may as well do a tech quiz, have a medical, have an interview. My jaw dropped. I said, right. Fortunately, I'd brought a lounge suit for the interview, which I was very thankful for. And all of those things went very well. And at the end, I said, excuse me, I feel I need to mention I haven't actually got an ATPL. So they said, well, look, go back, get it all done. Whenever you get something like a rating, give us a call and let us know you've got that done. So everything that happened of interest, I rang Hong Kong. And I did my instrument rating and everything at Kidlington in the Seneca with a lovely Yorkshire lass instructor who really loved her beer. I remember that. Anyway, got through all of that, rang Hong Kong, and they said, right. Now, this was at the back end of 83. And they said, right, looks like the April course for you on the 747. How does that sound? Oh, yes. Twist my arm, I'll come over the moon. Absolutely delighted. It was only 2 or 3 nights later, at something like 2 o'clock in the morning, that the phone rings. And I'm just dragged out of a deep sleep, stagger to the phone, pick it up, drowsily say hello. And the management guy who I knew, he was an administrator, lovely man. He said, George, do you still want to join us? And that snapped me to immediate state of being fully awake. I said, Malcolm, you know the answer to that. Well, he said, can you be here in 2 weeks' time for the 747 course? I said, Malcolm, hang on a sec. Put my hand over the mouthpiece. Maren was there standing beside me. Maren, okay, you with the kids, do what needs to be done. Everything good? Yes. Malcolm? Yes, no problem. He said, right. So off I went and joined Cathay Pacific. So I know that Tug spoke up for me volumes at the management level, carpet corner as we called it. I know he did. And I was the first ex-pure fast jet pilot that Cathay ever hired. And also, I know it doesn't sound that old, but 38 is not actually that young to be making that sort of transition. So it was a bit of a gamble on the part of the company. And I'm sure that was recognized. And when it all worked for me, then the floodgates opened and a lot of ex-military fast jet guys were coming, including somebody on my flight at Lucas, actually, Andy Maddox. He joined and yeah. So there we were, went from the F4 to the 747, and I had no idea really what to expect. I really didn't. And I just loved the airplane, the classic 747, because I remained on the Dash 200, 300 for all of my time in Cathay. I elected not to go on the Dash 400 or the 777 when it came along. I just stayed on the classic. I loved that aircraft. The handling was way beyond what I expected. Just beautiful. And the whole concept of airline flying and everything, that was a bit of a steep learning curve, because in the fighter world, you do none of it. The Hercules guys got lots of exemptions, but not the fighter pilots. So it's a matter of getting up to speed and all of that. But once all that slotted into place, the next challenge was, and I think they realized it was a mistake to put ex-fighter pilots on the 747, because at that time, the Classic was doing the long-haul routes, non-stop Hong Kong to London, non-stop Hong Kong, Vancouver, Frankfurt, Rome, all of these. And what a ex-fast jet pilot needed above all else was handling, and lots of it. And that's not what we were getting. We were getting minimal, plus all the jet lag and everything else. Later on, they changed it and put such pilots on the TriStar, on the regional network. Made a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But you'd now joined the highest paying airline in the world. You certainly fell on your feet, and your progression seemed to be perfectly natural for someone of your skills. You became a training captain, senior check captain. This is the perfect career progression. But you stayed in Hong Kong, I believe, for your career, as opposed to taking basing in another country.
Yes, that's absolutely right, Nick. But if I could just comment on what you've just said, as you know very well yourself, you can be the most highly skilled pilot in the world, but if the timing's not right, you're not going to get your command slot. And my timing with Cathay was just perfect. The expansion that went on for decades and decades, literally, but only just started. So I was in the ideal position to actually get a command relatively quickly. But yes, the basings came up. Cathay, of course, was now a major airline, and they were flying to all sorts of places around the world. So it made a lot of sense to base aircrew in maybe their home country, and they just commute to the airport and pick the airplane up and so on. And it was also made financial sense because, the superannuation fund scheme would change, of course, for them. We talked about it a lot. I actually wanted to leave, sounds very, very unthankful, but I really wanted to get back into my gliding big time. I had pipe dreams for retirement, and I wanted to do 15 years and get the travel benefits. But I didn't just want to go on and on in the airline business. And Man and I naturally talked about it extensively. I flew down to Australia a lot. I knew the eastern part more than the west. And I would have thought, great gliding down here, but it wasn't just the gliding, there was more than that. And Maren finally came to the party. She was a bit reluctant. She thought we're going to live way out bush in the middle of nowhere doing this gliding. And I think that played a part of her mental process. Anyway, finally, she was on board big time. And we stayed in Hong Kong until the 15 years were up. I handed in my resignation and we moved down to Australia.
You did manage to get a little bit of gliding in, though, with the wonderful Mr. Sato in Japan. And with the Barons in America. It sounded like you had made some good friends in the gliding world.
Absolutely loving this series, and I must say it's been sort of nice to sort of move away. I know we're going back to gliding in next week's episode, but sort of hearing how he left the army and went on towards the flying the 747, obviously for Cathay Pacific, was just fantastic. It's
you say we've got a couple of those left?
Yeah, 2 more left, I think, in the can. But yeah, I'm really loving this series. Obviously, it will be released on YouTube when we finish. But yeah, really enjoyed that, and my personal thanks to George and Captain Nick for all their generous time putting that all together. It's been really a real pleasure to share it with everyone.
Excellent. And yeah, thanks to everyone who's been involved in putting that series together. It's been fantastic. So as you all know, we have got Matt and Andy from the A320 podcast with us this evening on the show. So I think it's time, because they haven't been with us since, what was it, episode 350?
Well, of course, last time they were on the show, of course, they were then launching the 727 project. I mean, I'm fascinated. Not 727, 737, sorry. I may have had one or two wines. I do apologise.
Actually, I will say that you guys, I've been listening to the show since you started doing the podcast. I will say, it for someone who flies the sim on X-Plane, honestly, it's really handy. It is really good, even for someone who flies, on a sim on a game as such, or a sim as such. But very good, well done.
Excellent. No, we're glad to hear that you like it.
Yeah, yes. Ian and Mark are really good. They're very knowledgeable, and they also do a very good job of putting it across. Obviously, for anybody who hasn't listened to it, Matt and I don't actually do that podcast because we don't fly it. It's just part of the family now.
But your A320 podcast, though, you're obviously releasing. I think it's a couple of weeks since you last released on your podcast, isn't it, guys? But also that's one to definitely listen to for anyone, actually, not just pilots, but also people like myself who may fly the 320 sim on their home PC. But yeah, well worth a listen to. So well done, guys. How's the project going? And obviously we know the 737 podcast is all up and running now. But how's the 320 podcast going with you guys?
Yeah, it's going well. In fact, we've got some episodes coming up that are generic, so they're not just going to be for the A320 or the 737. So we're going to put some across both podcasts so that anyone can listen to those. We've got those coming up. And the next project we've been working on since we saw you was the webinars. We've now done we've done 2 737 webinars, which have been extremely successful. We've had very good feedback from those. And we've got our A320 one coming up later on this month. We did a free webinar for Resilient Pilots. I don't know how familiar your listeners are with Resilient Pilot, but they're a sort of not-for-profit establishment here in the UK, but they do serve people all over the world who people either want to get into flying or have been made redundant, and it helps them keep current, connected with like-minded people, and also sort of mentors them either to their first job or back into a job if they've been made redundant. So we did a webinar for them live from our studio in London, which we've been doing all our webinars from, and that was extremely successful. When we did the 737 one, their previous record had been, I think it was 102 sign-ups. So we did the 737 one and we did 150, so we broke their record. And then we threw down the gauntlet and told A320 pilots they've got to try and better the 737 ones, and they had 502 people sign up. So I think that solves the argument of what's better, doesn't it?
I mean, I know things are a bit sort of strange in the world, or they had been for the last year or over a year now. But for you guys, I suppose, because you're both Airbus A320 pilots, how's sort of the flying situation as such for you guys? Are you still keeping your hand in as such?
Bit varied, isn't it? I've been in the sim couple of times just to keep current, and this year I've done 2 flights, but they were, 2 days of flying, but they were all maintenance flights, so we didn't have any passengers on. I think we've discussed before, aeroplanes hate being sat idle, so to reduce their maintenance schedule, we just fly them empty. So first one, I flew an aeroplane up to Edinburgh, then got on a different one and flew another one back to give 2 aircraft flights. And then yesterday I went to Manchester and back, which is where Andy is. So I gave him a quick call to ask for any tips going into Manchester. And yeah, it was very nice up there. My first time into Manchester. It was quite a nice day. So,
how about you, Andy?
I haven't flown this year.
Wow.
I'm coming up on 90-day currency on Monday, so I'm in the simulator to do my mandatory 3 takeoff and landings. But the simulator package is quite good now. We do a few of the bits and pieces, do a little flight from A to B, and a few little things happen. Then they're going to do some other stuff, narrow runways for us captains and crosswind landings and stuff like that. So it's really good just to get a bit of practice and get used to flying again. But I don't expect to fly really until around April, May at the earliest now.
Actually, Jenny Parkinson in Rome asks a good question, actually, guys. Do they do sim lessons for the general public?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yeah. We do sim sessions for the general public. We can organise sim time in 737 or A320. Yeah.
330.
330. Any full flight sim, really, that we can get our hands on, we can organise time for the general public to come and have a go and have some fun.
Rough sort of price, kind of, for a half an hour?
Oh, blimey. Now you're asking.
Fixed base is about 350, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And then full motion is about £500 an hour. It's quite expensive for a full motion, but
yeah, they're not.
You know, these things cost £20 million to buy.
Money. So. should ask for that for my Christmas present next. Anyway.
My goodness me.
Anyway, Captain Cruz asks a good question, doesn't he, Nev, in the chat room?
He does, and he asks, with the A320 in service since the 80s, how do they know how different cockpits are to current A320s rolling off the line? So how's the evolution there, and how do sims keep up with the development?
Well, the flight deck has barely changed. The biggest change that we've seen to visually look at it is the change from CRT screens to LCD. An interesting fact, the CRT screens used to be that deep due to all the tube and stuff at the back, and the LCD screens are still that deep because the connector is all the way back here, and because the design hasn't changed, they've got to keep the same length so that it fits in. There's been a few changes cosmetically inside the flight deck, with different transponder boxes, different weather radar systems, but ultimately it hasn't really changed a lot. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, same really. You know, the changes are so minor that basically the newer sims will have the newest kit on, but it doesn't matter if you use one of the older ones. I mean, there's one of the sims that Andy and I have both instructed on down in Burgess Hill has still got CRT screens, and we train guys on there that are current pilots on the brand new aircraft. So that is one of the fantastic design philosophies of Airbus, is that it's so interchangeable and so well designed, even through different types actually. So the 330 and 340 are very well, pretty much identical inside, apart from, like, obviously the 340 has got 4 throttle quadrants. So that's it. Yeah.
The biggest changes really have been software updates, just like your computers at home. as time has gone on and Airbus have found better ways to do things and optimize the equipment that they have, they just update the software. We've got lots of different computers on board 'cause it's fly-by-wire, so the ELACs, the SECs, they've all just been updated with new standards to improve handling, and and the autopilot as well. There's been a few changes there to improve handling.
Nev, you had the chance, didn't you, not so long back, to have a go in the in a certain 320C?
Oh yes, no, the guys we were filming up in Cambridge, and Andy and Matt let me have a go at a engine failure on takeoff, so single engine departure, approach and landing, and that concentrates the mind, I can tell you.
No, actually, interestingly, Nev, just to sort of slightly off topic there, you've actually sort of sat in on a couple of these webinars that the guys have been running. I mean, as a sort of non-pilot but like keen aviator, I mean, how have you found them as projects?
They are really well put together. I'm not just saying it because the guys are on the show, but they are very, very professionally done indeed, and very well presented. Graphics were brilliant. And I remember Andy and Matt saying to me quite a long time ago, I think when we first met, and they were saying, and actually other people said it as well, that how poor some of the quality of training things that you see on YouTube and other companies, assets and stuff like this. So it's a real nice change to see some really high quality stuff with people that have been, flying the 73 or the A320 for 20 years or more. So yeah, it works really well, and really good interaction. They've got their own chat room there as well, which really works. So very impressive actually.
That's the key. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say the geek in me was suitably excited because they also use vMix, which is the software that we use here in our studio. So I've never felt more vindicated that was the correct route to go down, to watch professionals also using that software.
The USP to these webinars is the fact that it's a technical ground school refresher course in 2 days that you can do from your own home, from your office, from your kitchen, wherever you want. It's fully interactive. As Nev said, there's chat room. People can ask questions there. They'll get put to the instructor live. The instructor can answer them or find the answer for you. And then also the instructor can ask you questions to check how you're learning, if you've got any problems. And it's completely interactive and everybody can get involved. And that's the main thing.
Yeah. And we use lots of different technologies and software, which we've got a full production team. So John, the producer, is a different John, the producer. We've got our own John producer. He's actually listening now. And he runs everything there. We remotely feed in questions from the chat room, and we use state-of-the-art graphics and a little bit of augmented reality is coming soon as well. So we're developing it all the time. And we'll give the guys here a link. We actually have a free module that you can watch on YouTube, which is on the flight control systems, which those of you who have really wondered what the fly-by-wire element of the Airbus is actually all about, it's an extremely interesting topic. So I'll give them the link to that, and it's well worth having a look.
Yeah, John's an integral part of our team. He's done so much work in the production side and making it look fantastic and smooth and slick. In fact, he's made it look like it's effortless. He's put that much work in, and that is really a big part of it.
Wow, it's such a cool project. It's a really cool project, and we all wish you huge success with it. I don't think you need it, but I wish you all the best with it. It's really quite cool. It's time to sort of start wrapping things up, I'm afraid, guys. Matt and Andy, thank you so much, very, very much for joining us. A quick reminder, obviously, next week is a very special show, as we've already said. It's to sort of celebrate International Women's Day. We've got a Women in Aviation special that's taking place next week, hosted by Dr. Steph Meggs, Jodie Rieger, and of course Ariel Tweeto. Very much looking forward to sharing that with you all next week. It's going to be a very special show, so please make sure you're all watching. Carlos, how can people get in touch with the show?
Yeah, don't forget you can get in touch with the show via our social media outputs, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search for Plain Talking UK. Don't forget as well, me, Matt and Nev as well has also got a green screen. You can have your picture on the green screen behind us, guys. Just send your pictures. You can send them to our WhatsApp number, +44 757 22499166, or you can email them to the show, podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Don't forget to check out our website, allthews.plaintalkinguk.com. On there you'll find links to our shop where you can treat yourself to one of our glorious PTUK t-shirts if you haven't already got one. Please do. There's lots here to send out. And you can also grab yourself one of our PTUK mugs as well to adorn your kitchen on a Sunday morning. You can also find our links on there to Amazon. If you want to do your shopping via our link on our website to Amazon, you can. It will give us a little small referral fee. Won't cost you a penny, but it's all good. And you can also, obviously, on our website, find the links to Patreon and PayPal if you fancy giving us a couple of pence to the show. We'd all very much appreciate it indeed. Don't forget as well to check out our guests, Matt and Andy, over at the A320 Podcast. They're at A320 Podcast or info@A320 Podcast if you want to email the guys. Also the A320 Lounge and the 737lounge.com and 737podcast.com as well. Look for those on your podcast players like I do. Just type it in on the search box and you'll find the awesome podcasts on there to download. So there we go, guys. So what's everyone up to next week? We'll start with...
Let's start with Armando because he needs to run away,
Armando.
Unfortunately. Oh, Armando's
gone.
Sorry.
Okay, he's
right.
gone. Armando's going flying, so he's beaten all of us. Nev, what are you doing next week?
That's a good question, actually. Not very much because we're still not allowed to travel yet. So I'm hoping we can start doing that from the start of April, which will be nice. So more home working, unfortunately.
Excellent. And Mr. Smith, what are you doing next week?
Not a lot, really. Well, I'm a little bit busy next week, obviously, because we've got some final planning for this amazing show that I mentioned earlier on, where we're sort of, as I say, very much looking forward to doing our Women in Aviation special. So a couple of meetings involving that just to get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed for that. And then other than that, a little bit of support with us with just the usual, really, just sort of making sure that everybody gets their wine safely is my main job. John said something in my ear about Monday, which I missed, but there we go. Oh, Monday is International Women's Day, but I say our special is falling on Friday. What about you, Carlos? I presume you're working and getting units ready and all sorts?
I'll be in the truck next week, I'd imagine, and I'm having an actual office day Wednesday for a change, so I shall be in the office just for a change on Wednesday, which will be quite nice. Actually,
Mother's Day on next Sunday, by the way, here in the
Mother's
UK.
Day next Sunday. And our guests will go. Who should we go for first? Let's go for Andy. What are you doing next week?
Hello. Well, I'm off to Gatwick tomorrow. Then in the sim at a disgusting time, 5 a.m. on Monday morning. Then the rest
of the
5
a.m. now.
Yeah. It's an awful time of the day. Then the rest of the week, I've got to just working in the office really and starting to dig out the garden for that project out there.
Excellent. What about you, Matt?
Well, I've got next week will be my first week since God knows when that I won't be doing homeschooling, so that will be good. And I'm actually doing a commercial passenger flight.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What?
Yeah.
I'm glad I was sat down for that.
I know. And that's on Thursday. I am doing a Lanzarote.
Oh,
and it has people booked on it. I'm not sure how that works with
restrictions and things,
travel only, etc. I don't know. I'll find out.
Lovely.
And are you going to be all right? You're going to be all right doing the PAs. You used to be like, all right, how you doing? Yeah.
I know. I was thinking about that. I've got to try and
remember
what
how
to
to do
say.
it. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, absolutely.
So the second he picks up that handset, hello, this is your captain speaking. He'll drop right in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be like slipping into some comfortable shoes. Off we go.
That's it.
Exactly.
So who's next? John, what are you doing next week? Oh,
fascinating.
Lovely.
Really fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
for that, John.
Something about planning, apparently, he's whittering on in our ear constantly.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah.
So we are going to say a last big thanks then to everyone who has joined us in the live YouTube chat room this evening. Thank you to everyone for joining us. You've been absolutely awesome, as always, this week, guys and girls. And don't forget as well, big thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast, because we really do appreciate you guys and girls as well. Don't forget, send us some feedback. We want to hear some feedback from you. Send it into the show, email it into the show. We want to hear what you guys and girls are up to in the world. And so that's it then.
Yes, actually, just FYI, sorry, some wonderful pictures that I've got behind me here. They were very kindly sent in to me by Alex Robinson, who's actually in the chat room at the moment. And I think a lot of these pictures were in the Gloucester area. Certainly that picture that was behind me earlier was of the airstrip at Gloucester, which is, I mean, that's a stunning photograph, isn't it? And he also picked a very nice day to be out flying, let's be honest. Yeah, it's, and then a couple of night flights that he did as well. I mean, there is something quite magical about night flights. I mean, do you guys feel the same when you're doing night flights? Does it just everything look a little bit more special?
Oh, it's my favourite time of day to fly.
Yeah.
I much prefer flying at night to daytime.
Yeah,
I'm different. I prefer early, so mornings, but yeah, definitely when I do a late, especially cities. I mean, obviously being based in a London airport myself, when you come in to land or you're coming in low over London on a crisp, clear night, nothing beats it really. And that's the only time we get to be low. Is that Silverstone there?
I think it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
very cool.
Gone over there many times on the way into
yeah, absolutely. Right, it's time
Awesome.
to finish. Yeah.
That is where we're going to bring episode 358 to a close. Don't forget, guys and girls, especially girls, next week it is our special show, ladies, or special women in aviation show, really, we're going to call it, actually. So don't forget to tune in next Friday for that show.
Mike is saying in the chat room, by the way, the sooner you can announce the date for the big February surprise meetup type thing, the better. Obviously, we are working on that until we've got all the details firmed up. But we promise we'll try and do it in the next few weeks so that people can take advantage of the cheap airfares. We promise. There is big plans in works, I promise.
There certainly is. So keep your ears on the show, guys, because it's going to be very, very much a first come, first serve for this special 400th show. So that's it, guys. Have a great weekend wherever you are, whatever you're doing. So from me, Carlos, here in my home studios, from Matt in the PTUK Master Suite studios, from Nev in his very, tidy studios, from the background he's got there. Yeah. And from Armando, he was here, but he's had to go. But from Armando in his Charlotte studios, from Matt over in his studio, and from Andy in his glorious arcade studio, and from John, who does so much work for the show in the background. A big thanks to John. Big round of applause.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone, and see you all next Friday.
Take
Goodbye,
care,
everyone.
Well, no, in fact, you won't see them. That's the
Not
point.
going to see us.
No,
You'll see
absolutely.
girls.
Much nicer things. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.